Hello, I am Veenu Keller from Redefine Parenting. I want to welcome you to the Spanglish World Network and H.E.R Network on Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Remember to download both the Zingo TV app on your respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire Sticks, Roku Sticks, also on all smart TVs from 2016 and forward. I am so excited today because I have an amazing guest that I've had the honor and privilege of knowing for over a couple years, helping support her family, because what we're going to talk about today is all about teens and being parents of teens, the challenges that we go through as teens. And I thought, Finola Hughes, who's amazing, you might know her from General Hospital with Anna Devane. We've been talking for a couple years now on, the struggles that we have with teenagers, and especially like when we're working and we're busy, we have to keep our schedule, we have to keep their schedule, and it just kind of gets overwhelming at times. So Finola, I just want to, introduce you and just kind of find out, like, how has it been for you? Because now you have all teenagers.
They're all teenagers. Well, one's a 20-year-old. So,
well, yeah.
Well, it's a struggle, it's a challenge, and I think it's actually a bit of. I was thinking about it today. It's kind of an art. It's turning into an art for me, like sort of trying to figure out how to talk to them the best way, because I just noticed that if you say anything a certain way, it just triggers and it doesn't work. So it's just really at this point, using your words, choosing your words. I'm trying to do that, and I've learned a lot from you actually about that, like how to reframe why and how I'm saying certain things and how they can hear me.
Right. Because if we get more curious instead of critical, as soon as we have that tonality in our voice that we're being critical, they're going to shut down and they feel blamed. And then now you're the person that's at fault, right? It's your fault. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. And really, it was a sense of that tonality. And so I think for parents, and I'm sure that you know this too, is that you may think because you're like trying to get things done and they ask a question and you answer it, but all of a sudden they think your tone was so different and it just turns into a battle, a war. Yep. It could be over something as simple as dinner or making plans to go do something. And it's like, yeah, you could do it. And it's like, oh, she didn't even hear me.
I know. And I do think asking questions has been curiosity, rather. It's just, that's been a huge change for me. Just asking the question, well, when did you wash your hair last? Just something as simple as that, as opposed to, I really think you should wash your hair. It's such a small thing. And also I think curiosity, it's a really good tool in life, like actually to ask a question. I've often found if I'm in any kind of confrontation, if I ask a question, it's human nature to answer. So you have to answer the question. So it sort of stops the momentum. If you're going towards a confrontation, it just kind of stops the momentum for a second. So you can both get your breath and one person can answer. And the curiosity behind a question, it's very human. It kind of brings everybody, I think, takes the air out of any situation. I've actually found it a great tool.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the one tool that, I've been teaching to all parents, like you were saying, is when we are curious with our kids, we allow them, it takes the judgment out of it. Because instead of saying like, I think you need to wash your hair.
About you. Yeah.
Right. Like, I think you need to wash your hair. It's like, when was the last time you actually washed your hair? It's like a curiosity. So they don't feel accused. They don't feel shamed. It's just, I'm just curious. Right. So when you're curious, there's no undertone of blame and shame. There's no judgment. And that's really what it is. Like, if we really want to find the tool of communicating with our teens, it's taking out the judgment.
Yeah.
They get so much judgment already at schools and, coaches and stuff like that. It's like when they come home, that's the last thing they want. They want to come home to us to say, so this is going on, and us going, really? That's what you did? That's how you answered it? as opposed to like, wow, tell me more,
Right.
and what else happened. And there was a situation that, I know one of my other clients, they got in a fight at school, and immediately the parents texted me saying, oh my gosh, you got to talk to them. They got in a fight at school. And I already asked them why they did that. Well, I got a lot more information because when I talked to that client, they were saying, I asked them, I said, what made you so mad? So it's
Oh,
like taking away that, like, why did you versus something had to trigger them to get that mad, right?
that's great.
And so all of a sudden I got the whole story. And what we found out was this kid was bullying my client for so long and he hadn't said anything. And finally he stuck up for himself.
Right, and it's all about being an ally. Like you as a parent, you're an ally, and school is so hard. And the last couple of years have been a nightmare for most teenagers and certainly all children. Um, and I think that they just want to feel like it's safe, and if they do feel that, so much more comes out. Like, I was sitting with my son the other day, just we were just hanging, and I wasn't saying anything, and he just suddenly started talking about him and his brother and this and just different things in life, and, I just kept my mouth shut, and I kept going, "Really?" And I didn't say anything of I didn't judge it, I just allowed it to sort of, unfold, and I and I think, that, I have such a better relationship with my 2 youngest kids now because they've been working with you and they've been being coached by you, um, and it's changed the dynamics. Like, we're all like, the whole family is much more allied. Sort of, there isn't so much of this, I'm the parent and they're the teens, even though that's accurate. I still drive them to school. I still ask them to take out the trash, but there's just more of an understanding, I think, with all of us.
Right. And it's like, and I'll share this without breaking into their confidentiality. It's just that they, they had to learn like for themselves that if you just tell mom, oh, I need to do this and not give an explanation, it's like things get lost in communication. So it's being more open and creating that conversation, right? It's creating that conversation and explaining and allowing you to be in their world to understand what's really going on, to share more with you, and to realize that you're not asking them to do something because, you're mean. You're asking because, taking out the trash, even simple like that, that's part of being the family. Like
Yeah.
we're all living in this house. And it's like, how do we contribute to our own selves, right? How do we become a family versus individuals living in a home, and just respecting that. And also, it's like learning different formulas too. Like, your daughter has a different formula than your son does, right? And how you act and what you do. Um, and so once we also learn our children's formula, it helps us because we all have a formula. Like even in relationships, we have a formula, and it's
Explain
really important.
explain when you're talking about a formula. Just
So a
because, I
formula.
mean, I think I can, I can conceptualize, but I'd like to.
Right. So a formula is, and I'll use this as a relationship, and it's relationships to, all people, I think. So I'll use my twins as an example. So my daughter is really into singing, dancing, being loud and obnoxious, where my son is more into like watching Baby Yoda and looking at things on Baby Yoda. And so, and I know that his formula is more of a he needs my eye contact. He needs my individual attention when I'm talking to him. But my daughter doesn't. So if I'm talking to her and I'm doing other things, we're still having a great conversation. So her formula doesn't need me to just look at her and, be so focused on her presence. She has a different personality than him. Like I would even say like your daughter is very hyper focused. She's an artist, right? So
Yeah,
she's really a lot in she's your daughter's very internal, where
yes.
your
No,
son
totally.
is very external,
Yeah.
you know? So when you think about like when you're talking to her and you're describing like things that are going on, it's about understanding where she's coming from internally, where when you're talking with your son, it's more like, well, where is that showing up with other people then? As much as he doesn't like really care what people think, but he does because he he is externally driven.
Yes. And I have to have a different approach with both. Like, I mean, and
Exactly.
obviously that's, you have to, with most people, have a different approach.
And
And
that's the formula I'm talking about, right? Is like the
right.
approach that you take.
Yeah, like I have to be much more quiet with my daughter, and I can't. Her triggers are much more specific and can and I do think that that might be a little bit more. Your daughter isn't a teenager yet, but teenage daughters that they are a creature unto themselves. There's a thing that really happens,
Yes.
and um, uh, and a mother triggers everything in a
Mhm.
daughter, and they are learning how to individuate from the mother, and
Mhm.
that's a sort of, I think it's a painful process for both, uh, but certainly I've been really careful about not saying certain things. Like, I remember my mother saying some things that
Mhm.
hurt me, so I'm very careful that I don't say those. So I've sort of got I can hear that in my head, and, like, I don't use any of those. However, there's other things that I trigger in my daughter that I literally have to find out what it is. And
Mhm.
so I can't sometimes ask her, "I'm sorry, what happened there earlier?" Because she's
Yeah.
like, "I don't wanna talk about it," or, you
Right.
know, she's over and, "Oh god, you're so boring," or whatever. So I have to try to work it out, or I'll talk to you, or I'll ask, like, what is it that I'm saying, like, when I do that? Um, and like, we broke it down one time about the hair,
Mhm.
um, and, you know, she was hearing complete, criticism from me,
Yep.
anything, and so it was just pure criticism, however I worded it. And so now, you know, I just have to wait for her peers to have something to say about
Right.
it. It's like
And
you have to let things go.
you do. And sometimes, I mean, you hit something. It's about that dynamic that changes when they become teenagers. Because I mean, I have two older boys that are 28 and 23, and I know even with them as they were changing, as you're realizing with your son too, these boys become even more independent, right? Like they're like, I don't need mommy anymore, right? And so I can only imagine what I'm going to be going through with my daughter because she's very like similar. Like she takes things to heart and it's like, how do I want to word it? And so the biggest thing for kids is knowing that they're being heard, right? And like
Yeah.
I ask my kids all the time, how do you know that I love you? How do you know I appreciate you? Because I want to make sure that they are seeing it through what I'm doing. And what's great about that is I get to understand again their formula. So like if you look at a relationship, right? When we're in a relationship with a partner, spouse, boyfriend, whatever it is, and say they brought you a flower every Friday. Every Friday they brought you a flower. And then all of a sudden you're breaking up with them and they're like, "Why are you breaking up with me?" And they say, and you say, "Well, because I never really felt that you loved me." He's like, "What do you mean? I brought you a flower every Friday. That showed I love you." I didn't know that because that was not my formula. What I wanted was a text good morning. What I wanted was, hey, I want to take you out to dinner spontaneously. That's what I wanted because that's my formula. And that even depicts even formula even more is that if we keep doing it the way that we perceive we need to show them love or we perceive that we're going to, appreciate them and it's not their formula, they're never going to receive it.
So it's like a love language, but with your children.
Yes, it's exactly like that, and we do have the love languages with the, is it touch? Is it quality time? Is it acts of service? Is it gifts? Words of affirmation. I should know that. That's one of my top ones. Words of affirmations, and if we know what that is, then we are able to transcribe it, if you would, in the way that they will receive it.
And you know, the affirmation, that is something that pays off down the line. It's something you
Yeah.
almost pay forward. And I've noticed, like, if I just say, "Thank you so much for, you know, this, that, or the other," it doesn't you'll get a, or "Sure," or whatever, or, "Oh, mom, you're just being," you know.
Right.
But down the line, it sort of pays it. It's there. It's just in there, and they've heard it, and or, you know, it softens them. I
Yeah.
think it
Yeah.
I think it does soften them, and I do feel that, that is one of the jobs that you have, is to as especially as a mother, is to try to soften them. like to try so that you can get in, and so that there's room. Um, because school makes them tough. Sometimes the other parent makes them tough. It depends on the dynamics in the family. And so, you can rely on the world. The world is going to make them tough. And you
Right.
also have to give them grit. I mean, that, I'm not saying that you pander to everything. You have to give them grit. But I think also, we have the ability to try to soften them so that they can let their guard down and be vulnerable, and that way you get information. Does that make
Right.
is that
It
accurate?
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And a part of that, though, also when we're softening, how we could soften our kids too is letting go of our expectations for them,
Oh
right?
gosh,
Like there's a
absolutely.
lot, like if we think like our kids need to be this way, our kids need to be that way, it's it's not true. We need to ask them what they want. And I'll share this like with your daughter. Happiness is like we all want our kids to be happy, but like when I'm coaching your daughter, happiness is not her word. Her word is peace and calm.
Yeah,
And like that was such a light bulb moment for me as well as a
too,
coach,
when you shared that, yeah, for sure.
because I was like, well, no wonder we're like fighting against her because we're trying to give her happiness and she doesn't want it. She wants
No,
peace and calm. She wants relax. She doesn't want to feel anxious. She wants to feel that who she is good enough the way she is. And
yeah.
there's no fighting, there's no turmoil. It just is. And she has the perfect personality for that too.
Yeah. Last night, this is really funny, but last night she said, "I want you to help me with a math problem." And I'm like, "You why?" Because I have nothing. And so she comes out and it's sort of it's like waves or sound waves, and sound waves moving through air, sound waves moving through water. And like I read it and I not it wasn't going in. Like I had nothing. Like it was like I was just reading, it was just blah 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 blah. And so I'm like, I don't know that I can help you with this. So we tried to, so she's like, okay, I'm just going to answer the quiz. So she starts to answer the quiz and she's like, do you think that's right? And I'm like, sure. Okay. Yes, maybe. And so she answered everything. And then she's like, I don't think any of this is right. She said, but I'm just going to submit it. And I'm just going to, and I was like, do it. Then the teacher will have to explain it to you. If you get it all wrong, they will have to explain it to you. And if you get some of it right, but I was like, it doesn't, just go with it. Because I also wanted her to not feel anxious about it because,
Right.
I mean, I'm not necessarily sure that any of us need to know about sound waves, but it's kind of a nice thing to know, maybe for whales or whatever. But I really was not gonna, make her get anxious about it. And so she submitted it, and she was like, we'll see. And I was
But
like, yeah, see.
that's a beautiful example of softening it, right? Because a lot of us parents, and I know I used to be guilty because I mean, I've changed the way how I parented. Like how I parented my boys is so different how I parent now. And I'll tell you, it's part of what you were talking about. It's like, yes, we have to teach our kids the grit, right? We got to prepare them for what the world
Oh,
offers, but we
yeah.
also need to be that safety where they can come and know that we're going to nurture them and be soft. But one of the things that I feel that parents do is that they make grades and assignments and everything weigh so much more to these kids.
So
And it's like,
important.
you know,
Good
and it was
Lord.
funny because I was just having a conversation with your daughter last night about this. I said, a lot of parents put a lot of intention on you have to have A's, you have to have B's. So when a child takes a test, because I know your older son has test anxiety, right?
Oh,
It's like
he's real test
they're
anxiety.
so
He
focused on
flatlines, he literally flatlines in the
right.
test.
And this is
So
why he's so focused on, I got to pass, I got to pass. He can't even recall any of what he's taking the test on because he's so worried about failing. And
I
that's
know.
what test anxiety is, right? And so I
Yeah.
was talking with your daughter last night and I was like, because I was explaining to my kid the other day and I was talking to your daughter and I was saying, if you fail a test, it does not mean you're dumb. It does not mean you're smart. It does not mean you're bad. It does not mean you're good. What it means is you are not comprehending the information that was on that test, which means, just like you said, the teacher's going to have to realize you don't know it and help you then, right?
Yeah.
And that's what tests need to be about only is do you recall the information in this chapter enough to take this test? And if you pass, then obviously you knew enough. And if you didn't, then is it something that we need to pay more attention so you can go forward, or is it not a big deal and let's just keep going?
Because the thing is, the world isn't set up like this.
Right.
When they get out there, they're going to have to be self-motivated. They're going to have to be, and the world is not set up like you don't go into a business and everybody tells you what to do. Like you're expected to think for yourself. And I don't know that any of this, the way the lecturing and the testing and the way that the kids are taught, I'm not 100% sure that any of this is correct. It's an archaic system that was
It is.
set up back in the industrialized revolution. I mean, it was set up back then, and it was to teach people how to go into a factory. So now we're teaching people how to be individuals, and I don't think that the school system is set up to do that.
No. Can you
That's just
imagine?
my opinion.
No, I agree with you, because I'm going to say, can you imagine a school where your kids learned math and English and reading? Because I do believe those three things we need in
Yeah.
our life. And they had a school on proper social media etiquette. They had a school on proper financial awareness. So we know how to save. We know to put 10% here, 10% there, to
Oh, yes.
create,
50,
you
30,
know,
20. Let's teach
right?
that.
What if we taught them how to get out in the world and how to look for a home and turn on your your electricity, your water, like real life skills,
Skills.
versus learning about the Boston Tea Party that, you know, I mean, I
The
don't need
king,
to know that
the
now.
British.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. And that's why, like, I never used to be a fan of homeschool. I'm going to be honest. And then all of a sudden, this whole, um, you know, COVID happened and
Yeah,
we were forced to it. But I think what parents found out was that a lot of it was, the switch helped their kids progress even more.
I know.
And
I think a lot of people felt that. I mean, I didn't mind having my kids home at all. They did a lot. They did all their work. They didn't, Cash had a little more problem with math. Um, but yeah,
but look at him now when he's doing the online math now.
yeah,
He's
he's doing
excelling
online.
so
Yeah,
good
yeah,
versus being in
doing
that
really
high
well.
school doing it, right? Like, and him
Yeah.
and I were just talking the other day, and he was like, that was like the best switch. I'm so glad my parents heard me. And
Hmm.
that's what he says. I'm so glad they heard me and they were able to switch me because I'm doing so much better. Because
Yes.
it's interesting. So with grades, is the pressure coming from themselves because they have a standard, or the parents? And I know with your son particularly, he is his worst critic.
Yeah,
Like
it comes from
he
him. Yeah.
he needs to have, because he wants to be the best. And I feel like that's your son's motivation in life, is that he wants to be the best, and that makes him strive to do better each day, right? Because he wants to be seen as the best.
And
And
I have to say, like with the school he's at, that they're both at, we went in, and I went in and I had a meeting with his counselor, and with my son too. And the counselor was so receptive, and she was like, okay, so maybe he's going to do better if he does this one block online, and then we'll support him. He can go into another classroom, and we'll support him with and it's a little bit more a la carte. And I really
right,
liked the fact that the school was open to that. They
right.
were willing to meet him where he was.
I love that.
And I do feel that the system is maybe not supporting the kids, but the teachers really are supporting the kids. And if all of us have learned anything this past couple of years, is the fact that the teachers are the ones in the trenches with these kids. And
Mhm.
they had to adapt, and the children had to adapt, and just to in order for the world to keep going. Um, but uh, I think sometimes it's up to the parents to try to help the kids find a skill, and to try to teach them about money. And but it would be interesting if some of the principals in schools started to reassess the testing system.
Right, and adapt to where we're at now. Like you said, we're not in the industrial system anymore. Like, we're not learning these skills to go into, a factory. Like more and more people are becoming more entrepreneurs all the time.
Yeah.
And if we have the entrepreneurial mindset and we're teaching our kids to look at that, like, and again, it's like what I tell everybody, we are our children's inner voice. Like, regardless what we're saying or not, they're watching us. I was at the store the other day with my family, and we were at Michael's looking at the arts and crafts stuff. And she goes,
Oh, I love
"Mom,"
that place.
she's like, "Mom, if we got this and we put this in there, do you know that we could sell this for even more?" And the cashier's like, "Oh my gosh, you got a little entrepreneur there, don't you?" And
That's
it's just,
great.
yeah, she's always, that's how my daughter's always thinking though, right? But she also sees that me and her dad are entrepreneurs, right? And we're always looking and creating and doing, so they see what we do. And so their mind goes that way. And that's why I always tell parents, it's like, it's not so much we say, it's what they see us do that
Mm,
that they take on. But I wanted to kind of change a little bit, because you brought up
sure.
something the other day, you and I were talking about, is like how different life is from when we were growing up to where our kids are now,
Right.
right? And you were telling me a lot of great things, like the differences of, even safety, communication. Like, we didn't have social media. We didn't,
No.
I mean, I feel I'm so much more protective over my kids now. And I was thinking, but I was just riding my bike 2 miles and my mom didn't even, like, there was no cell phone, there was no GPS.
Yeah, I think what I was saying to you is that our children have little physical autonomy that we had. Like I was out in the street playing until whatever time, and then I'd be called in for dinner. My parents didn't know where I was necessarily, uh, and I was getting on the bus at the age of 8, like on my own, like a proper London bus, and I was getting off where the school was. So 8 until 10, I was getting on the bus on my own. And then 10 until 18 or whatever, I was getting on the subway. So that has changed. And but I was innocent in other ways, but I was streetwise. Uh,
Mhm.
and and I think that autonomy has changed for kids, because now they're all in the home and they're all online, and they are exposed to so much more about the world, and yet I think physically they're just not out there as much as we were. So
Right.
I'm just aware of it. That's all, and the differences in parenting, that and the differences in having to parent social media. Dear Lord,
Yes. It is scary.
not
And
that.
and I think that's where parents do need to step in more, like, what are the rules and the boundaries? Like, I mean, my husband and I, we have differences in our parenting. He said, he calls it, and he has a great name for it, free range parenting. It's like, as long as the kids aren't killing themselves and they're good, I'm good, right? And for me, I have more of a structured parenting. Like, when you get home, you have your break, and then you need to go outside and play. It's a beautiful day. Get out of the house. You've been cooped up in a classroom. You don't need to be cooped up in the home right now. And so I personally limit the amount of screen time they have, because they're on screens all day long at school too. Like, all their assignments are on iPads now, or computers. Like, their reading is on computers, their math is on computers. Like, I want their brain to get a break from all of this and go experience the world. Go see what
Yeah.
it's like to walk in grass barefoot, and go look at the roots of a flower. Go climb a tree and get your exercise. Find kids in the neighborhood and go do relay races. They get out and expand. I mean, I think if anything that COVID did for us, it cut off our kids' ability to socialize.
Oh,
They
oh, it so did.
they
That's that's the worst.
it is. And I feel that kids need to know how to communicate with other people without their phones, without the screen. They need to know how to have a face-to-face conversation. And because I will tell you, I have so many kids now that I coach, and they talk to me as if they're texting me. And like if they have to go to the bathroom, they'll say, uh, BRB,
BRB,
yeah,
BRB.
BRB, and I'm like, what? And they're like, oh, be right back. And I'm like, have we really come to a society where we're we're talking like we're texting, like little letters, like we can't communicate. We don't know how to look people in the eye and really have that empathy and that compassion when people are sharing and talking. One of the most beautiful things that I do as a coach is I do Zoom. I don't ever just coach kids with a phone because
No.
I want eye contact. I want to feel them. I want to see what they're going through. Like I don't want them to tell me, I got a C in math and and I feel so good about it and I'm watching their body language that tells me they are not good about it. Something is going on there, which allows me to be more curious and say, well, what did that mean to you? Like what did it feel like to you? And I can pull more out of them by being curious. And most of the kids I coach, they're not going out and playing with friends. They come home, they hang out at the home, they get their homework done, which is on screens, and they are on social media because that's their socialization. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's really trying to, and because COVID took away the football games, right? The basketball games, like all the things these kids do in high school that we got to do, that we looked forward to doing, you know, um, was gone. And now they're back. It's like, well, we got comfortable to this. So why do we need to do that?
Right.
You know?
How do we, like, seriously, because social events were dangerous for the last couple of years. And I get really concerned about what that has taken away from them, and how to try to, filter that back in, safely. Now, like there's a lot of the mandates have been lifted, and uh, I'm just, yeah. I mean, what do you do? Do you kind of host some kids over at your house or something like that? I'm curious. I'm like, I'm at a loss. I mean, I'm I'm up for advice on all of that.
Right. So I think that one of the things is great is getting people together, like creating social opportunity. Like, why don't you, you know what, let's go bowling. Why don't you invite a friend to come with us?
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Hey, we're going mini golfing tonight. Why don't you invite some friends to come with us? Or we're going to go to the go-karts. Things that are out and open and more spacious, because everybody has their own beliefs, right? Like, do we need to wear a mask? Do we not? Do they really work? Do they not? But like, we don't need our kids to be feel judged by this either. It's like what I tell my kids. They're like, well, if we go over there, they want us to wear a mask. I'm like, then do you want to go over there? They're like, yeah. I'm like, then wear a mask. Just respect whatever the people are wanting you to do if you're out their home or whatnot. If your friends want to come over here, we're not wearing masks. But if they feel they need to, that's okay. Let them wear a mask then if they want to come over, right? So it's being open to respect what everybody's beliefs are right now and
Yeah.
not being critical. And then it's also saying, why don't you invite a friend? Why don't you invite a friend to come here? Why don't you? No, I don't want to. Okay, well, what would have to happen for you to want to? Well, if
Okay,
you
that's
went with
what
us,
would happen.
yep,
What
because
would have to happen?
because the thing is that like if they're like, no, I'm not going to, because like it's not cool to have mom there, and you say, well, what would have to happen for you to be okay with that? And they say, well, I don't want mommy there. I'm like, oh, okay. So you would be okay if you went and I dropped you off and I picked you up later. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well then, schedule it. I have no problem. I don't need to be there. You're right. I'm good. But you get a more of a response versus just saying, oh, they don't want to do that. And then you say, well, let's
Right.
do that. No, they don't want to do that either. You know, well, what do you want to do? I don't know. Well, let's make a list then, right? Make lists of things that they want to do that's interactive that some of their friends might want to do, you know,
Okay.
and also asking them, well, what are some of the things your friends do on weekends? You know,
Okay.
like I know your son has some friends in Orange County, right? And you guys are in LA County. So that's with traffic in LA, that can be quite a halt.
No, but we
And
can, you know.
you figure out how to make it work, and it's just offering. All you can do as a parent is offer, because it's kind of like what you said. You can say, you know what, thank you so much for taking out the trash, and they're
Yeah.
like, okay, mom. But along the lines, it stacks
Mm.
and it does build their self-worth. Like that is one of the things that I wrote in my book about how to build self-worth is always compliment your kids for the little things that they do, and don't just say thank you. Thank you for what do you appreciate, right? And then that stays with them, so the next time they do it, they already know their worth lighting you up by doing that. And
Right.
so if you're always offering, if you ever want to make plans with your friends in Orange County, let me know. I will help you make that arrangement, right?
Mhm.
Even if they don't take you up, one day they're going to, and because they heard you, they know that you're serious about it. They know that the mom really meant that, that
Yeah.
they would make their arrangements. So it's giving them opportunity to, number one, be allowed to say, no, I don't want to. And then two, be able to feel free, like that open, safe, and trusting space to say, because mom, I don't want you lingering around. I'm 16 years old. I can appreciate that. So, but if you
I
want to
can
make
go
plans,
off and get a coffee and read a book. It's easy.
right. Right. And I can go somewhere else and you can do your thing. I could drop you off. Just tell me what time to pick you up.
Yeah.
So that's one idea of how do we get our kids to be more into the social. The other thing is I tell parents is like, find recreational things for them to do, find clubs for them to join. Like, what is it that they really enjoy doing? And how can we get them more in person versus online?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Like I know,
in person. Like learning how to read cues. You can't read a cue online. I mean, you can, but it's like learning how to like really look at your people in the eye and be
right.
next to them and sense them.
Yeah, because I know that your son takes acting classes, and I keep saying to Michael, when are you going to go in person? When are you going to go in
I
person?
know.
You got to go in
And it's
person.
I went the other day to teach one of the acting classes and I was there in person and and it's great. I mean, it's really it's really so important for
Right.
these kids out of a school environment. They need to, like, I think bowling and I think that all of the outdoor golf and all of those things are really great ideas. Because I'm constantly booking museums. Let's go see that, and they're like, we don't want to go see it.
Yeah, they're done with museums. They told me that too. They're like, we are done with museums. I'm like, so you know what I
I've
tell
taken
them?
them twice.
I tell them, I said, so give your mom other ideas. I said,
Yeah,
this is what I say to them. I say, what is your mom's outcome? She wants to spend time with us. Okay, great. So we know that your mom's outcome. If you want your mom to spend time with you, your mom wants to spend time with you and you don't want to do museums. So what else could you do? Make a list for your mom. I've said this to you, like to both of them several times. Make a list and say, Mom, this is what we like to do. At least give your mom options, because if
yeah,
not, if you're not giving her anything, your mom is your mom. She's going to find time to spend time with you guys. Right. So you either, come together and figure out what you want to do, or you're going to go to museums. And they both laughed at me. And
that's it.
so, but they got it, right? They got it, especially when I asked them, what's your mom's outcome? I said, do you think your mom's intention is to make you miserable and drag you around to a museum? And both of them like, no. And I said, so tell me what her intention is. What is your mom's outcome? And to me, that's like the most important thing. Like whenever I'm coaching kids, I'm always asking the questions like, what's your parents' outcome? What's their intention? What would you want to happen differently? Like, I think the one thing that parents forget the most, and I know I'm guilty of this too, is in order to influence anybody, we cannot judge them. The minute our children feel judged, we're no longer influencing them. We're not able to influence them at all. And part of being able to influence somebody is also having rapport with them. If you are out of rapport with somebody, they're not listening to you. They don't care about you. They're not going to have that conversation with you. So it's like when my child walks away because they're upset, I say, we're not walking away because that's rude. And he said, but I've taught him, I said, tell me what I told you to say to me. I'm mad and I need some time. Okay, great. I can appreciate that. When you're ready, I'll be ready. And he'll go to his room now. And like, my husband and I both have been really, every day when he gets mad at something because he didn't get his way, it's like, you're not walking away. What do you need to do? I just remind him, what do you need to do? I'm mad. I need to go to my room now. Great. And when you're ready, we'll be here. And I'm going to tell you, the last 3 weeks has been, I've not heard him stomp upstairs. I've not heard him slam his door. I have not heard him yell at his dad, you're mean, or yell at me, you're mean. We have like negated that in the last 3 weeks just by simply saying, what are you supposed to do? I'm mad. I'm going to my room. Okay, great. Why? Because he wants the acknowledgement that he is mad. He wants the acknowledgement that he wants to be in control and not have the conversation. We're going to give it to him because it's not worth fighting with him anyway. And when he goes to his room, he calms down. He's like, okay, I'm not mad anymore. Okay, great. So let's talk about it.
I do think that it's really important to teach kids about anger. I
Yes.
think that kids really need to understand what it is. And, because I don't know if we've had this conversation, but, like a penny dropped for me a while back about anger and about how it's used. And it's oftentimes, like, especially in adults, it's used as a form to shut somebody else down, like a real anger thing. And then also the walking away is used as a means to shut the other person down, because you're not allowing the thing to
Right.
continue. And so I've had this conversation with Cash, and I think you've had conversations with Cash too about this. Cash being my middle son, and that you are in control of your anger. People are in control of their anger. And when people say, "Oh, I lost my temper," no, you didn't. You knew that you because there's nobody else that's in control of your own anger other than yourself. Like, nobody else can control it. And people use their anger in order to control somebody else. And I think the moment that sort of dropped for me, and I had a conversation with Cash about it, and he really began to see how anger is used. Like, it really, like, the penny dropped for him. And I just that was a real awakening for me, the day that I suddenly, I think I was actually reading a book, and it was about some emotions, and it was about trauma, and it was talking about anger, and that we are in control of our anger, and we use it, and it's a real thing. And it's like it's performative, in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
One of the things, I'm going to tell you, so I totally remember this time because Cash and I started talking about this, and he actually was like doing research on it and came up on some stuff we were talking about. And I said, I think it was Nelson Mandela who said, when you're angry at somebody, you're drinking the poison and expecting your opponent to die.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, oh my God, that's so great. And so he started researching that. And I said to him, I said, anger is a second emotion. And I said, anger is always a second emotion. And I said, think about the last time you were angry. He's like, okay. And I said, what did you feel first? And he's like, I was mad. And I said, no, you felt like you weren't heard. You felt like you were deceived. You felt like you were cheated. You felt like somebody was better than you. You felt not enough. Something you felt.
Or you were hurt.
You were hurt, right? Hurt, confused, overwhelmed, stressed. But you felt something else. And the only way you were able to express that, because when you're in anger, people think that's not vulnerable, right? Vulnerable is showing tears. Vulnerable is saying, you know what, I'm so hurt right now. That's vulnerable, which leaves you open to getting more hurt. But when you go to anger, it's almost like a defense mechanism that, you know what, hurt people hurt people. So you hurt me. So I want you to feel the way I'm feeling inside. So I'm going to show you that through anger. Because anger is a universal language. We all know anger. We all know it. We all display it. And so it's being able to, and this is one of the things that I work on with your kids, actually. It's so funny. And other teens too, is how do you have control over your emotions? How can you be, and to me, that is emotion balance, right? Is that when you can identify that, yes, I'm angry, and what I was really feeling was this, and it came out as that. And then when because we'll process things, right? Like, you know, something will come up and I'll hear about with Cash. I'll bring it up when we're coaching. And I'm like, tell me what you were feeling at first. He's like, oh, I was so pissed. And I said, I get it. You were. But let's go back to the why of it. Like, what was the cause of you getting pissed? And then he tells me, and I said, so what I'm hearing is you really felt kind of embarrassed by that. And no. And I said, let's just be honest here. He's like, well, I'm like, okay. So once you're embarrassed, you immediately went to anger because you were not going to let anybody know you're embarrassed. Because if you let somebody know you're embarrassed, then you let somebody know you care what they think. And your son, that's like his top thing is, I do not care what people think about me. Like that shapes him. Like he cannot let anybody know, like he cares what people think about him. And that's why he's like the class clown, right? Like he uses humor all the time because
and he is very funny.
He is. Oh, he's like my funniest client. Like coaching him is like entertainment almost, right? But he also knows I see through him and I see his pain and I see where he hurts. And I'm like, and so I'll call him on. I'm like, we could joke about this in a moment, but let's get to the truth here. And so, and I'm one of the people that he allows to get that deep with him, because a lot of kids do have that wall in front of them, and it's hard for them to open up because then they're vulnerable. And kids want, you said it in the beginning of this talk, they want to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
They need to know they're safe. If your child knows that they are safe, meaning no judgment, meaning they're not going to get in trouble, meaning that you're really going to hear what they're saying and not form your own opinion about what they're saying. Now they feel safe. Now they want to talk to you. And you were just saying, you were having the conversation with your son the other day and you're like, yeah, okay. And you weren't saying anything else, but yeah, okay. So he just kept telling you more because he's like, wait, mom's not judging me. Mom's not criticizing me. Mom's not giving me commentary, And so he felt safe to just continue to share with you, which is a great moment for you too. I know that is.
It's great. And also because like it's so important that you get the truth out of children, that your kids are open to tell you the truth. And that they're, that like, and the word that you used earlier, which I really, really love, is rapport. If you don't have a rapport with your kids, what are you doing? I mean, like you have to have a rapport. And it's, that's a great word. And I think it's time invested.
Mm-hmm.
It's just time invested. And joy and laughter. I mean, like, look, nobody's pulling the wool over anybody's eyes about the amount of work that goes into raising a family. Let's not pretend. It's constant,
Yes.
and it's constant. So within that, I think you have to kind of get rid of all the chores and all the things that just can bog down, the family. Like it's like a lot of stuff, and find those moments to have the rapport, the fun, the laughter, the sharing of humor, so that you have rapport. Like, for instance, we're going back to see my brother in the summer. And my kids adore their cousins. They love their uncle, they love their aunt, and their cousins are one of the favorite people in the world. And I know when we get there, we're just going to laugh for 2 weeks because I have a rapport with my brother that I've had since we were kids.
Right.
And it's this shared humor, this shared family humor, which are building blocks. And look, we all have different family circumstances. There's single parents, there's double parents, there's whatever it is that you're doing to juggle this play that we're all in.
Right.
And if you can just find time to put aside the washing up, put aside the washing of the hair, put aside all the laundry, whatever it is, and find the time to make that rapport with your kids and that fun and the sense of humor and the sharing. Forget the grades, forget everything for like some moments of the week.
It's that presence, right? It's that presence with them. And like, I wrote this book. It's, teach your children that they're enough, because that's my second chapter. It's like, you have to be present. You have to be present with your kids. You have to be, because you just hit it on the head, because that's where the rapport comes. When this no longer is in your hand and you're just sitting there going, wow, tell me more, and it's also asking your kids like, okay, before we get started, do you want to just vent, or is this something you want me to support you on? What a great question. One of my great friends taught me that years ago. The guy was like complaining about. She goes, Veenu, are you just venting to me, or do you want me to help you solve it? And I said to her, I'm like, I don't know. Can I get back to you on that? And she goes, yeah. And she's one of my dearest friends. She's a trainer with me. And so I came back to her, like we were all kayaking. We were doing this trainer thing all together, and we're on kayaks. I came to her and I said, hey, Melissa, Okay, yeah, I just wanted to vent. And she goes, okay, great, girl, vent away, vent away.
That's
Because especially when your kid keeps coming to you over and over and over again, it's like, are they just venting or is this something? Because as soon as you try to say, okay, well, honey, have you tried this? Mom, you're not listening to me. I'm like, okay.
right.
So I back off and then they come back with the same problem. I'm like, okay, honey, we talked about this. See, you're still not listening to me. Finally, I'm like, honey, are you just venting to me or is this something you want me to help you solve? And then you got to go back to the formula. How do they want you to solve it? Do they want you to like give them advice or do they want you to ask questions like, so what would that look like then? What would you want instead of feeling this then? So what do you need to do then to have that feeling then?
That is so good. That is so good. That is like
So,
real, really, really good tool.
and the other thing, I just want to go back to your daughter for a minute because we did bring up like her word is peace and calm. As soon as I established that with your daughter, she has opened up. Like she is like a flower that has bloomed. Like we laugh more, than ever on our calls. Like she is so night and day from when we first started coaching.
Great.
We joke around, we laugh. As soon as I'm like, you have not eaten today. Go get a
That's right.
snack.
That was yesterday, right?
I can tell that she is one of those hangry kids. So her blood sugar or whatever, but as soon as she has that smoothie or that boba tea or that piece of cake, like all of a sudden I see her beautiful personality shine,
Right.
And she's actually has a little bit of excitement. I don't know if she's going to admit it to you or not about going to the new school. We're already talking about how to present herself open so people know they can come to her. We're already practicing that with her. We're practicing, this is a new start. What do you want it to look like?
Oh,
You
that's
know,
great.
like we are working so towards that anticipatory guidance because I said, remember, you want peace and calm. So what is that going to look like for you there? And just by establishing that versus, oh, you want happiness, she still would have shut down with me. I don't think that she would have ever opened up the way she has with me because she's like, wow, you get me. Like you totally get me. And again, she feels safe, right? She feels safe to share with me and allow to sink in. Like I forget what I gave her last night. I gave her one exercise yesterday. And I said, that's all you have to do. And she's like, okay. I'm like, you're going to do it, right? She goes, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm like, okay. It's not a lot. And she's receptive to it because of that, right? It's receptive to realizing like, wow, someone's on my side. And I do everything through curiosity. Like everything is through that word curiosity. So
Love that word. I've always loved that word. It's great. Yeah. I was going to say something and I've forgotten what it is now. Hang on. It'll come back to me. Um, uh, oh yeah, I know. Um, we're raising citizens, and I think that that's something that I try to keep in the back of my head, and that's actually from my mother, because I remember my mother saying to me one time, to me and my brother, she said, "I'm not raising a boy and a girl. I'm raising people."
mm,
And it was great. And I remember her saying that so clearly because I was like, "Oh, she is. She's just raising people." And she
mhm.
was like, she told me things that I was way too young to know about, but she felt that, that's what she was doing. She was raising citizens. And I think that's something to keep in mind,
Yeah,
because how do you want, because, you want kids to know that their anger, that they
they're
don't
being
lose their,
heard. Right.
yeah,
And
they
and
don't
be
lose,
in control of it, right? Like how do you stay
they
in control
have to
of it?
control it and they have to be responsible.
Right.
They have to.
Ownership. Ownership is huge. That's one of the other components that I coach on my teams with, right? Is the ownership of their actions and whatnot. But
Oh, yeah,
I'm sure we can go on and on and on. So we're just coming to the end of the show already. This has been an absolute pleasure with you, Finola, to be
always.
here. Just share openly because I know you have a lot of fans out there. I know I've been a fan of General Hospital since the 70s as myself. So, just to hear it from you, like, you're a working mom, you have teenagers, it's the struggle is real for all of us, and we have to let go of feeling like there's only one way to parent and just parent the way our kids need us to show up. Like that's really what it's about because, our goal is healthy, happy, and independent kids. And happy can be defined even as peace and calm, right? So it's
Yeah.
just being open to that. Thank you so much for coming, and I look
Thank
forward
you.
to
Thanks so much.
having more chats with you. Thank you guys so much. This is the end of our show. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. See you next time.